I discovered a really cool trick for placing stamps precisely on the Stamparatus so that they're always straight and just where I want them. I think you'll like it, so keep watching. Hi, this is Sage Kimball and I'm the Mad Stamper with another technique video for card makers and paper crafters. I came up with this trick when I made this sympathy card with the Golden Afternoon stamp set. I wanted to make good use of the rule of thirds, and I'll show you how I did that in a minute. But first, I want to show you a simpler setup that I used for this card with only one stamp. I've cut the piece of cardstock that I need, and I'm going to put it in the Stamparatus. But on top of that, I'm going to place the Stamp-A-Majig image sheet. Now, the Stamp-A-Majig is what Stampin' Up! Used to sell before they came out with the Stamparatus. If you don't have a Stamp-A-Majig, that's not a problem. You can just use a piece of window sheet instead. So I cut this about 6 by 6, and that'll work the same as my image sheet. So here's my sentiment stamp, and I'm going to place it down in the corner where I want it and pick it up with the plate. Now I can ink the stamp, and I'll stamp right on that image sheet. And I actually fudged. I placed this stamp crooked so that I could show you the technique. I'm going to adjust one end of the stamp while the other one is lightly still attached. With skinny photopolymer stamps, you may have to pick up the entire stamp and move it, otherwise the photopolymer can end up curved. Okay, now that I've repositioned my stamp, I will wipe the image sheet with my chamois and ink the stamp and stamp again. So I like this position. It looks a bit higher on the cardstock than the original, so I could reposition it again using the same process. But I think you've got the idea. I'll take the image sheet out, ink my stamp again, then stamp on the cardstock itself. And voila, I've got a nice straight sentiment. Now I'll show you how I set up the stamps for this card utilizing the rule of thirds. This is a simple design strategy that's incredibly effective. I made a video several years ago on how to use it in card making, and I'll include a link so you can watch it. Instead of using the cardstock that's going to actually go on the card, I'm going to use a piece of retired cardstock as a practice piece. Since I'm going to have a frame around it, I'm going to start by drawing that frame on my practice piece just by tracing the lines of the frame. This is a tool I show you how to make in the video on the rule of thirds. It's a piece of vellum the same size as a card front with pencil lines dividing it into thirds in both directions. The places where the lines cross are what I call the sweet spots. I've poked a hole in each of those sweet spots, and now I'll take my pencil and make a mark on the cardstock right in line with those sweet spots. Now I can take a ruler and line it up with those spots, then draw the lines on my cardstock. So the setup is the same. I've got my cardstock on the Stamparatus with the Stamp-A-Majig sheet on top of it. And first I want to position the tree stamp. So I put it along that third line, pick up the stamp and ink it It looks pretty good, although if I'm looking down here at the bottom part of the stamp, it looks like the stamp needs to twist this way just slightly. I make that adjustment and restamp the image just like I showed you in the first example. So I'm going to remove the image sheet and stamp again. Next, I'll do the birds and the sentiment on the other Stamparatus plate. Here are the birds, and I'm going to try them in this position first and see how that looks. So I ink the stamp and stamp on the image sheet. And I think that looks good right there. So I will remove the image sheet and stamp them on the cardstock. Okay. Now for the sentiment. So here's the sympathy stamp, and I tend to like my sentiment just under the bottom third line. So let's take a look at that and see what it looks like. Well, first of all, it's not straight, so I need to adjust that. But I also think it leaves a lot of blank space in here, and I'm going to want to move it up a bit. I like that position better, leaves less blank space in there, but it's still not quite straight. So I'll adjust it again. Now that looks good to me, so I'm going to take the image sheet out and stamp on the cardstock. So you can see how many pieces of cardstock I might have wasted trying to get these three stamps in the position I wanted in terms of the rule of thirds, as well as for the sentiment and the tree to look straight in relation to the frame that will be around them. And now I have a nice template if I want to make more cards of this design. I hope this trick will help you use your Stamparatus more easily and effectively, and that you'll experiment with using the rule of thirds in your card designs. Thanks for watching. Please like this video and share it with your friends, and leave me a comment. For more inspiration and instructions, be sure to sign up for my newsletter at www.stampingmadly.com. Visit me on Facebook and Pinterest, and don't miss another great video. Subscribe to the Mad Stamper YouTube channel now.